so it's time to move to our Western television section. And as always, we're going to, I guess you can start with whatever you've been watching if you're going to mention it, and then we'll head right into Korra.
Well, like I said, I watch the stuff that I usually been watching, in terms of Western television. I watched the Stella. Tomorrow, I watched, the day after we recorded last week's, watched that week's episode of Agents of Shield. Tonight was an interesting one because it was supposed to also, while watching it, they were supposed to show you briefly show you a scene from Age of Ultron, which I hope gets out on the internet so I can see it since I missed it to record this. And there was no my Sunday Fox shows. The two shows I watch on Fox on Sundays weren't on because they went straight from Sunday football to the World Series. And I watched, I had my Once Upon a Time on ABC, and then this week, for actually the second week in a row, I actually sat there at the same time as watching Naruto, was watching Castle, which was very good. Because I kind of I used to follow it, and then I kind of fell out of it a couple seasons ago. Now I'm sort of watching it at the same time as watching Naruto. I'm watching Naruto on my computer, and then the Castle's on the TV. But other than that, Korra. So
Oh yeah.
let's get into this. First things first. Once again, they've been keeping up with this momentum of good episodes and came out with another good episode.
Yes.
Great episode. They took something that they screwed up with in book 2 and brought it and fixed it. Now I don't mean go back and actually change what they did, but they took sibling drama
and made it good. Yes.
And made it good. They literally, even when they when the Airbending kids found Korra, they said how their sibling drama is what caused them to find Korra, and it was actually good. The interactions between them, and I thought it was kind of cute when they had that scene where Milo gave the girl he thought was cute a flower, and then his sisters embarrassed him, and I thought that was kind of cute and funny.
Right.
And I loved how it mainly focused on them for the most part in the episode. And then you see them go to the swamp, and then you see, Korra's all oh, come on, what are we going to do? And Toph's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then well, we've been doing nothing. And then she takes him to and then, you see, just like in Last Airbender, the Airbending kids fly over the swamp, they don't think anything's going to happen, so then they decide to leave, and then the swamp pulls them in. Which is exactly what happened in the Last Airbender.
Yep.
And then they they free they remove the vines, and then at that same time, Toph takes Korra to the tree at the center of the swamp, where she connects with it and is able to see Jinora and the kids, the other Airbending kids, and at that same moment, Jinora senses Korra, and they go to her, and they meet up. And then that's when, they have their, moment, and then, which is able to give Korra what she needs in order to remove the metal on her own. And immediately after removing that metal, she goes into the Avatar state. And then she leaves to go, join the fray. Now, this episode, I still think was a very good episode, but there are only two things I have an issue with. First, I didn't expect them for Korra to be entering the fray already. I I still expected at least another 2 or 3 episodes before she joined the fray, or left the swamp to join the fray, which I thought was kind of weird. And the other thing is that I'm worried that because she's already left the swamp, that we're not going to get to see Toph again.
Yeah.
That worries me.
Yeah, when I talked to AZX, who couldn't be here today, he mentioned that same issue or that same concern. And what I told him and what I'm about to say is I think that's definitely a valid concern, but I think that there's a chance that we'll get one more appearance from her at the very end.
Now, yes, and I'm hoping for that. But also, this episode set up for the next conflict or the next direct conflict that we're going to get, and that is the Battle of Zafu.
Right.
And that's definitely going to be interesting. And that's now, if you guys remember the trailer, you saw Su Ying crying. This could be where she cries, when she sees her city fall at the hands of Kuvira. And then, everyone, and then Korra is only able to help her escape. Now, most likely, I believe that the final battles, or the final battle of this war for control of the Earth Kingdom, is going to obviously, in my opinion, take place at Republic City.
Probably.
Because, it's all about bringing things, back. Like, when we first heard that this book was supposed to wrap everything up and connect everything up and whatnot, it was kind of skeptical. But, in this aspect of the fact that there's most likely the final battle of this war is going to most likely take place at Republic City, which is where this whole series began with, was at Republic City. So it kind of brings that whole full circle. Yeah. But also, what also helps confirm or helps bring a lot of the stuff full circle was Toph's talk about the previous villains and their goals, right. Saying how, Amon, he wanted equality. Tonrock wanted the spirits. And Zahir wanted freedom. But she said how that because they were out of balance, they took their ideals too far. And this is, again, makes me think even more that even after Kuvira is defeated, they're not going to go. The Earth Kingdom's not going to go back to monarchy.
No.
Because she's going to take these things that she learned from each of these villains and use that to propose a new idea for how to do things. But because she's in balance, she'll be able to do them properly.
Right.
So.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting about this episode I liked was that among the kids that they focused on Iki the most, who is at the current moment was the most undershown and under.
Well, yeah, because almost every time you saw the airbending kid, it was either Janora or Milo. Like, yep. Milo, it was more so comic relief moment, mostly comic relief moments, with a little bit of, being helpful. Where Janora was, a lot of being helpful and showcasing that she's a master, showcasing why she's a master airbender, and very skilled with, her spiritual side and whatnot. So, that's what it is.
Yeah, it was good that they finally gave Iki a good thing. And she was able to be useful in her own way, and we actually got some development for her, because prior to that, we really didn't have much at all. Season 1 was really the bulk of it prior to this episode.
Yeah, I would have to say so as well. So, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they do for the remaining episodes, but at this point, the obvious thing is that there's going to be you're going to see some type of battle at, Zafu, and then a battle at Republic City. And it also is going to be interesting to see how far Bolin's gonna go keep up. Like, how long is Bolin gonna be on Kuvira's side?
Right.
Because I mean, I know that in this episode they actually used drama for good, but the fact that in a previous episode there was that they set up the whole drama between Bolin and his girlfriend Opal, I'm worried that they might try and do that whole bad drama thing they've been doing with the couples.
Right.
Which is what I'm worried about.
Same. Yeah. It's definitely another valid concern. I'm also concerned about that.
So, but it's definitely going to be a fun ride. We were worried. The first book was okay. The second book got us seriously worried about what was going on in their head. And then the third book gave us hope again. And now this book is showing that, okay, now they know what they're doing.
Right.
But we still have in the back of our minds worries about, what's...
Slipping into bad habits. Yeah.
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 So,
So yeah, overall I would say it was a pretty, I would say solid episode.
Yeah. Yeah, very solid episode. And as long as, like I said, as long as they stay on this momentum of good episodes, Book 4 is shaping up to be the best.
Yeah, we'll see.
As long as it continues on this track.
Yeah.
So, that just about does it for, Korra. Yep.
Alright, guys. So, Walking Dead this week was awesome. It was simply a great episode, and we're going to talk about why. And honestly, the main reason I would say is because of the plan against Terminus's hunters. Now, I would also say that what happened to Bob was also pretty good, though. Again, I'm not too keen on shows that kill people off constantly, but I think like Walking Dead is an exception to my preference, because I think that The Walking Dead really does do it pretty well for the most part, with the exception of a few deaths. Like I think, like Shane, I was a fan of Shane, and I didn't care for how quickly he died. I was kind of hoping for more. Uh, I didn't really want him to die. I wanted him and Rick to kind of make up and just be awesome best friends for however long. And of course, I don't know. There's a couple. I thought T Dog was a bit premature, though. I suppose he really didn't get much dialogue in the grand scheme of things or anything like that. Um, Bob, in this case, he died pretty quickly. He premiered in season 4. He went through ups and downs, but he had good character growth, especially once we see him in the beginning of season 5, and then all of a sudden he's just kind of dead. So there are definitely positives and negatives to this death, but overall, I'm actually kind of happy the way they killed him off. They gave him a very good end, one of the best we've seen. He had good dialogue at the end. His relationship with Sasha kind of grew very quickly, and eventually just kind of left it kind of sad, where he was leaving her behind just as they started to really get involved with each other. Whereas I thought that would have been interesting otherwise, like if that had happened to Glenn and Maggie, but whatever. So it's my thoughts on Bob's death. I thought it was interesting, and I fucking knew it that he had got bit. I thought I was so convinced that he had gotten bit, And then I started to question myself when he got captured by Terminus, the hunters, and then in this episode we see that he got bit. I was fucking right about that. But um, it was pretty funny. I liked how he was saying, I'm tainted meat. I'm tainted meat. I'm tainted. He's like yelling it out to them. And, they start to spit out and throw up his leg, which I thought was great. And then, the second main point of this episode was the plan. Now, Abrams was being an asshole, obviously, as he admitted at the end of the episode, and they convinced him to stay for the night, and they made it seem like they were going to leave to go to the schoolyard. But based on Bob's information, they knew that these guys were going to come after them, so they hid simply, and they kicked the hunters' asses, and I loved it. Every minute of them. I wanted them to get slaughtered, and they did. Rick, he gets shit done. He put in the work. This guy is awesome. Now, when it comes to the ending, I'm not sure what to say because this cliffhanger could be misdirection, similar to last episode, because he says, "Come on out," but he doesn't say Carol. Interestingly enough, and what I'm wondering is why. Why are we leaving off on him saying, "Come on out," not saying Carol's name, not showing who it is? So it's throwing me off because I don't know what's going to happen, and I think the majority of us who don't read the comics, if something happened here in the comics, know what is going to happen. I think this could be many different things. This could be misdirection, and Carol is just going to come out of the woods, unscathed and with a bunch of supplies or whatever. Or it could be with Beth. We could see Beth because the next episode is based on Beth, according to the previews. So we'll see. Carol might be dead. I fucking hope not, because she has experienced the greatest character growth in the entire series. She started off as, this like a woman in an abusive relationship. She was very submissive. She didn't do anything. She got beat by what the fuck was his name? Not Jim. It was I don't even fucking remember his name. All she cared about was her daughter Sophia. And now she's grown into this woman who is willing to kill and is just this major hard ass. And she's one of the best characters, hands down. It's not even close. Now, she's dead. I don't know what to say. Then we'll go to the negatives because, you know, she does not deserve to die. I don't think she should ever die in the series. At least not until the very end. And, yeah, let's talk about the misdirection from last episode. We thought that perhaps the, not priest, but he was the pastor. We thought he was hiding something that had to do with Terminus or the Hunters or something detrimental to the group. Really, the previews made it seem like that, and I fell for it. You can see in my last review, I fell for it. Really, the misdirection was that he just wouldn't let his people into the church. He kept the doors locked, and so he had nothing to do with the Hunters, so whatever. At this point, I don't see him being a bad guy at all, so we'll see. And lastly, we had some pretty decent growth with Tyrese. And Tyrese has become my favorite character, my favorite black character, actually. And yes, there is there is a differentiation because the author and the writers for the show tend to kill off black people, and we know this for a fact. There's always got to be one. Like, there was T-Dog, and then there was the prison guy, and then there was Tyrese, and then Bob comes in, and maybe Tyrese was going to die, but no, Bob is the one that dies. There always has to be one, and then that one is going to get replaced by somebody, like, every single time. And I'm hoping Tyrese is the last one. He has to be the last one, but it's not going to happen that way, unfortunately. I think Tyrese should live. I think Rick should live. I think Carol should live. Daryl should definitely live. Best character, my favorite at least. Daryl should definitely live. Yeah, Daryl, Carol, Rick, Tyrese. I mean, Carl. I honestly wouldn't mind if Carl died. I think, and obviously Judith, I think should live. Otherwise, this was a great episode. I'm not even gonna pad this. I had very little complaints about this episode. I thought it was a great episode. I thought everything was done very well. And Michonne has her sword back. Yay! So yeah, that's gonna do it for the end of our Western television section.